We're getting ready for Halloween here at the library, and I want to tell you all about the history of Halloween, specifically about the jack-o'-lanterns, which I have a couple, and I'll show you in a minute. Um, it all starts with Halloween is a mix, sort of a mix, that comes from Irish and other Celtic traditions and uh, Christianity, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. I'm specifically going to be telling about the Irish part, all the Irish traditions, because here in Oklahoma, we have a huge population of Irish descendants, part of the diaspora, which includes everybody who has an immigrant ancestor from Ireland. And in Oklahoma, part of the reason we have so many, and if you look at the 1980 census uh, map with population densities, there are actually two states, and you can see this on Wikipedia. There are two states that have the highest density of people who claim to have be of Irish descent, and that's Boston, well, Massachusetts, but specifically Boston has a lot, and Oklahoma. And part of the reason of that for Oklahoma is because when the land runs were going on, you had all of this open area that was fair game, and you had a lot of Irish settlers coming in wanting to start a new life. So they took they took that chance and came to Oklahoma, and that's where some of the first settlers came from. Some of them, like my great 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 grandparents, for instance, came to Oklahoma running businesses like general stores, because part of that is you have all this space and all these settlers, and there's an opening. They need something to do. They need some stores to buy supplies from that they can't grow themselves or build themselves or make themselves. And they just filled in that niche. And some of them, it's really interesting. In Creek County here, just northwest of Bristow on Highway 16, if you're driving along, you go through this ghost town called Shamrock. And it was named that because there were so many Irish settlers there. And all the streets were named like Tipperary Road and Dublin, and I think one was Erin or something. And all their postage stamps were green because the Emerald Isle, green, it goes together. And there were huge, huge St. Patrick's Day parades, and I'm sure Halloween was huge too. Because who doesn't like Halloween? I know some people who don't, but for the most part, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And whenever you go way back, and whenever the Irish potato famine was going on, and you had a ton of settlers coming in from Ireland, uh, immigrating, they brought along their traditions, like Halloween and St. Patrick's Day. But Halloween start the main traditions that we have the most fun with, like jack o' lanterns, and some people do bonfires and costumes, trick or treating. A lot of that comes from the ancient Irish traditions, especially jack o' lanterns and costumes. So And originally, this for thousands and thousands of years, originally, the first jack-o'-lanterns were carved from turnips. And these other these other root vegetables called uh, called Mengelwurzels, which is fun to say. That seems to be more the Scottish version, but it's fun to say. The first jack o' lanterns were turnips, likely like this. And then whenever, because pumpkins were a new world, pumpkin, squash, beans, all that were new world plants that were only grown in the Americas, native to the Americas. So once pumpkins became, uh, once people brought pumpkins over to Ireland, they they started they started carving those instead because it's a whole lot easier to carve and it's huge. Because whenever you're carving a turnip, it the inside isn't naturally hollow like in a pumpkin or any gourd. So you have to literally take a spoon and carve out the inside and hope you don't cut all the way through it because you might accidentally cut it. And then whenever it dries out a little bit, it shrinks and it makes that opening a lot bigger, which isn't great. And it smells like turnips. But the turnip is a lot. And I'll show you guys in a minute. I'll turn off the lights and light them. And I'll show you. The pumpkin has kind of a spookier glow because it's so big and the inside's it's also orange, so it doesn't reflect as much. The turnip, it's a lantern. It it lights up and it's really cool. It does look really spooky. But whenever pumpkins, and especially when they came over to the Americas, when where pumpkins are really common, they switched almost entirely to pumpkins in the U.S. because it's so much easier to carve and it's a lot bigger, so you can get a bigger face and you can have more, you can be more creative with it. And there's nobody really knows where the first jack-o'-lanterns came from. It may have been uh, it could have been from wanting to keep wanting to scare off supernatural beings like the Sidhe or whatever goblins, trolls. That's more Scandinavian, but uh, whatever kind of boogers were running around on Halloween because it's the last the close to the last day of fall. Winter's about to start. The harvest is being brought in, and that's typically um, associated with the uh, the worlds between the living and the dead being, the veil being thinnest on that day of the year. So, in Irish in the Irish cultures, um, that that harvest festival, was called Samhain, and that's when they carved jack o' lanterns. They had big bonfires, and it is kind of a day where at night there'd be all kinds there's supposed to be all kinds of supernatural beings running around and could cause you harm. And the jack-o'-lanterns could have been meant to ward off those spirits and just light the way. And they're fun to carve. I'm sure that's part of it too. So, but in the 1800s, the Ireland is very, very, very Catholic, very Christian, and they had a new story. Nobody knows what the original myth associated with it was, but by 1835, there was a story in the Dublin Penny Journal that is the first instance I've found of the story, the legend of the jack-o'-lantern. And I'll tell you that story since it's the first one that I've been able to find. And I'll kind of mention some of the later ones because there are several versions of this story. So in the first version, you have Jack. He's mean. Everybody knows it. It specifically says he's well known for across Ireland for being stingy and just a bit of a jerk. He won't even help people. Even beggars won't ask him for help. He's that terrible. And there's one night he's coming home from the fair, from a town over, and he's riding through these woods in this spot along a running river that has all kinds of myth and legends about people being murdered and all kinds of supernatural beings. It's just really dangerous. And while he's passing through there, he hears something. He hears a sound. It's like somebody groaning. And he's freaked out. He's terrified. And he's thinking of all these stories that he's heard about this place. And he's going, oh no, what's here? And he hears the groaning again and again. And he finally stops and decides to see what he can do to help. Maybe to keep that spirit, and it specifically says it sounds like a tortured spirit, like somebody in purgatory. So he decides to ask what he can do to help to maybe keep it from coming after him. If he helps it, maybe it'll return favor. So he stops and he asks what he can do. And the voice says, take me to somebody's house so I can rest, and I'm just an old man that lost his way. So Jack's like, okay. It's not some booger man. It's not one of the She or something. So I'll take him home. And so he goes home and he helps this old man out, this old wanderer. And Jack's wife's surprised that he actually brought somebody home to help. And whenever the next morning, the old man reveals himself to be an angel. And he says, hey, Jack, thanks for the help. I'll grant you 3 wishes. What do you want me to do for you? And Jack, who is just terrible, says, okay, so there's this tree outside my house, and people keep taking branches off of it, or taking sticks off of it. I want for anybody who touches that tree to not be able to, for their hand to be stuck to the tree and not be able to move until I say so. That's my first wish. Second wish, somebody keeps coming in my home and sitting in my chair. I want anybody who sits in my chair to not be able to get up without my say so. That's wish number 2. Wish number 3 is I have this toolbox hanging on the wall, and I don't. People keep coming in and using my stuff. So I want, if anybody sticks their hand in there and tries to use one of my tools, I want their hand to be stuck in there and for the box to be stuck to the wall, not be able to move until I say so. That's wish number 3. And the angel is very disappointed because it's just horrible. It's so messed up. And the angel's like, those are your wishes. I'll grant you your wishes. But you can't come to heaven anymore. That is just so screwed up. And you could have asked for happiness or something like that. But instead you asked for people to be miserable if they try to use your stuff. And it's not like even if he says they can use his stuff or sit in his chair or take a stick. Because, and that comes into the story later. He just doesn't, like, even if he says, hey, you can take this, they'll still be stuck until he specifically releases them. So he's barred from heaven. He's screwed. He's not going to heaven. And so he lives out his days, and the angel's blessing he still blessed him. He has a lot of kids, and they had a good life. But whenever he's supposed to die, 20 years later, he can't go to heaven. So the devil sends a demon messenger to come get him. And Jack says, "Oh, okay. But I need. Do you want to sit in my chair for a minute before we go?" And the demon's like, "Okay. This is weird, but okay. You're just trying to stall. I get it." So he sits down in his chair. But now he's stuck. He can't. This demon can't get out until Jack says so. So finally, Jack makes him a deal. It's like, hey, if you promise not to ever come back up here and try to take me, then I'll let you go. Okay? And Demon's like, okay, fine. So Jack releases him, and the demon goes back. And he tells his master, dude, I made this deal. He tricked me. I can't go back. And the devil's like, okay, I'll just send somebody else. No big deal. There's the loophole. And so he sends another demon. And this one, he got the briefing. Like, okay, don't sit in the chair. And he came up and told Jack, hey, come on, let's go. We're late. So then he goes back, and Jack's like, hey, before we go, can I just fix, do you want to sit in my chair? I just need to fix something. And Demon's like, no, dude. I'm not that stupid. So Jack's like, okay. Can you at least hand me that, the needle and thread out of my toolbox there on the wall? Demon's like, I don't see any harm in it. You're still just trying to stall. And he sticks his hand in there to get the sewing thread and the needle, and now he's stuck. So Jack makes the same deal with him. And Demon's like, fine, just let me go. And so Jack lets him go. And Demon goes back to hell. And he's like, hey, master, uh, funny thing, he did the same thing to me. And so by this time, Devil's like, you know what? I'm gonna go up there. And I'm gonna drag him down here. So the devil himself goes up. And he's like, hey, Jack, come on. We're gonna go. And Jack's like, all right, all right, all right. Well, let's go. And then he's kind of hobbling and limping. And Devil's like, dude, come on. And Jack's like, hang on, I gotta get my walking stick. It'll take me forever to get to the tree, but could you hand me a stick off that tree? And Devil's like, fine. Just come on. And the devil goes, tries tries to grab a branch to use as a walking stick, and now he's stuck again. He's stuck. And so this time, Jack goes, okay, I'll let you go, but you cannot take me to hell. Uh, you can't take my soul. And Devil's like, fine, let's go. I'll go. Let me go. I don't want you in hell anymore anyway. You're making too much trouble for me. And so Jack lets him go, and now he's double screwed. He can't go to heaven. He can't go to hell now. So he's got no place to go. He's just stuck in purgatory forever. His soul's wandering the earth. And so the devil gives him a lantern. He takes a turnip and carves it out and sticks a candle inside. And says, here, take this lantern. And now you just wander the earth. You're just stuck. You're in between worlds now. Bye. And so that's the first legend I've found of how the jack-o'-lantern uh, became a thing. And it's always been kind of associated with wandering souls, and it seems to be related to another phenomenon called, you may have heard, called a will-o'-the-wisp. And in the same way that Jack of the Lantern, is Jack carrying a lantern. In, I think it's more English folklore, there's the will-o'-the-wisps, which a wisp was another name for a bundle of sticks or a torch. So will of the wisp. And those have been attributed to just little swamp lights that you can actually see called faux fire. And it's swamp gas in the moors. And that's really cool. So, and in other stories of Jack of the Lantern, he's usually a blacksmith. And he's also called Stingy Jack because he's stingy. And he's stingy, selfish, he's mean, and he's just an awful person, really. And in some of the stories, he's out drinking and he doesn't want to pay his bill, so he makes a deal with the devil. He's like, hey man, can you turn yourself into a coin? I'll pay for this drink with you. And then he puts the coin in his bag, and there's a cross next to it, and the devil can't get free. So Jack's like, hey, I'll let you go if you promise never to take my soul. And Devil's like, fine. And he goes. But then he's such a jerk, he's just stuck in purgatory, he's barred from heaven. And then in other stories, the funniest one I've heard is he goes into the church, or people are taking donations, taking alms, or he's going to pay his tithe, and he's like, hey man, to the devil. He's like, "Hey man, you know what would be funny that you could do? You could turn yourself into a coin, and I could put that in the donation in the tithe box, and they'll think you're a real coin. And then you could turn yourself into something else, and they wouldn't know what hit them. They wouldn't know where it went. It'd just be funny, man." And so the devil falls for this, and Jack takes the coin, and instead of putting it in the tithe box, he puts it in his bag with the cross, and same old thing. Hey, I'll let you go if you don't ever take my soul. So it's just really kind of wacky things like that. One story, he talks the devil into climbing an apple tree and then carves a cross into the trunk, and he can't get down. So same old. I'll let you go. Don't take my soul. Then he's barred from heaven, and he's just wanders the earth and carrying a jack-o'-lantern. So that's the story. That's the versions of the stories I've heard. If you want to if you want to read the original, the 1835 Dublin Penny Journal legend, we'll put it in the link below. We'll put a link down in the description. It's really interesting, and I'll show you what these jack-o'-lanterns look like. I've got a turnip I carved, and I've got the pumpkin. I'll show you the difference. It's really cool. This is my favorite part of Halloween is carving the pumpkins and here I've got the pumpkin and the turnip, and I want to show you how different the glow looks. I can get this to work. There we go. I'll turn the lights off as soon as I get done. There we go. And so I'll put a picture in the end, but you can see the pumpkin gives off a really soft glow. And you got this turnip that lights. It's a lantern. Like there's a fridge in the back behind the computer, and you can see the reflection out of it. You can't see the pumpkin's reflection, but the turnip is that bright. And there, like, you can imagine people carrying this around on Halloween. You can see the light. But the pumpkin has a spookier glow to it. But that's it. So, happy Halloween.